this politics definitely will be raised right now. Episode 918, they'll put on the story quickly how long we can just there's no conversation about shutting down the government. Being said a hefty political fight that result of shutdown or the Republican eager to shoulder the blame for market sharing government default now sparks fierce congressional fights. Extremist control of Venezuela debate. Anything short of confrontation gets viewed as a peace battle. Harper can't like Cuban and use movement of Venezuela. Boss ego politics and policy domestic debate over Venezuela policy to engage in confrontation. Such voices are overpowered by the more extreme views and geek policy with Venezuela. See more like impeachment that Obama's cooperation is key to debt ceiling more. 9/10 the country will crash into debt ceiling. There will be an economic disaster to the Congress leader no honest to the toilet political capital to find a reason to pursuing misguided policy to take on each side with credibility for the next failure. The White House should focus with intensity on the domestic and wants to conflict. Congress can have all considerable debate now. Debt ceiling failure crushes U.S. leadership. This is a whole 10 refuse to raise the federal debt limit could be tried to cost with the ball. We total the damage of the state of the United States and impact whichever America would have invested down. That solves all conflicts, whole codes in the levity. We president was only the losing road. Respect for Obama would have a implication for where the Pakistan India puts its hundreds of nuclear weapons. China said that Mendoza put India Pakistan must be willing, ready to threaten our military. There are many threats out there. Some rapidly Chinese technology acted on global threat. Single threat facing America. Our allies is weak U.S. president. Now that saves off economic class deficit in 9/10. The government will enter the sovereign default. The ultimate financial crisis will be isolation, national crisis, global financial system will enter an era which is less trade for less economic growth, large and self-imposed financial disaster in history. President will begin to see America as unstable, rush to sell the treasury bond. The U.S. will come out with shouting the default will invest more. Interest rate would fall. It would be more damage than the apocalypse for selling too slowly. The U.S. will lose its role in the global economy. Now next off is top gallery interpretation. Economic engagement must be conditional. Shit in 96. The economic engagement proposed integration to negotiation conditional and giving 10% for buffer equal. The U.S. Carol said they gave you the call for a signature. For type violation after unilateral removal of removal engagement from Venezuela. Not a quick pro offer vote negative quick pro compensation for counter condition. Say no arguments. Keep the fight back against F5s. Next off it's the critique. Topic is a red herring. U.S. imperialism. Then to say it's a most of the political justification to create the illusion of democratic sensitive Petros and 12 the anti-imperialism. Imperialism directed by national meant for colonized countries that use come to Spanish colonial ruling against Cuban movie and most of the regional terror imperialism for disaster attraction to regroup common political economic interests cover really Spain military action to protect power used back by remote exchange Russia to U.S. domination being the beneficiary Western imperial advances for while practicing was involved in that corporation rhetorical sign protecting the invisibility of whiteness to correct on 97 the rhetorical sign protecting the invisibility of whiteness to white national control from no ideological system some both friends because possibly marginalized signify relation what is after race must be rejected and having instead since maybe in 2000 struggle against race will be long difficult was that integration probably never achieved for the reason the struggle will be undertaken was that concession can I find a moral order let alone a legislative order of racism because racism signifies the exclusion of the other reason is truly the capitalism next stop Counterplan text the United States government to negotiate a mediation inclusive bilateral investment treaty with India by a bid with India solves the generic internal language second advantage all the cards just say that US needs to negotiate more than with dispute mediation says yes it solves FDI and doesn't link to politics channel news agenda 713 to India to ready to talk on bilateral investment treaty we are in favor of bilateral investment agreement USA legislature have been impressed to make more foreign to business in India board to India small India manufacture it's all climate change cooperation fiber or not even claiming to compromise climate change only will be able to engage by US India bilateral investment treaty could provide balance India the United States India continue to disagree multiple climate agreement bilateral would help international trade US be supporting for the go to India in the profession next out capital tax the United States programs funded programs cover 4.8% of the surface ocean in a monolayer 0.1 micrometer diameter latex particle hollow shell core shell morphology bearing a convectionalized stabilization system that is inactivated salt water the United States federal government should repeal the foreign count tax compliance salt as state taxes scratch for non-resident alien eliminate the extra tax on U.S. citizenship and significantly reduce the reporting obligation on non-resident alien investor salt warming this Morgan and 11 vaccine would have a severe 1.2 the air 1.1 micrometer range albedo increased by 1% equally to the current forces CO2 to the global for making a fully offset micro will be a powerful entity response to climate change template for FDI this investment and 12 is about attracting foreign investor to repeal and to the foreign account taxes 30% was only get rid of a ridiculous low state tax rule entire goods and the subjects you attack limited extra tax on uses they'll call it firstly reporting obligation before they collide with comprehensive reform if go into case competitive turn FDI hurts the economy kills domestic industry is illy 10 coming international corporation push out protect the world protect the local business country clearly not all affects FDI can hamper the country try to attract these are potential reduction government environment all whether they invest in education infrastructure FDI kills credibility disinterest and always right to solve it will have a negative effect on American foreign policy for democratic motion government ability state nation will give capable writing down to the gross some waffle I would actually will give you just a reliance for democratic transition and parts of these goals that causes conflict escalation diamond 99 the reversal to right of world peace no two countries that establish liberal democracy have every cultural rarely by the way season level of lethal violence democrat no resistance not no impact it's a resilient Zakario 9 things will look like nothing in the 1930 government to repeat the same mistake by expanding support for economic offer to damage social safety established a part of the nowhere like 1930 the current economic system more resilient than we say that core drivers of foreign policies are constant black will 99 no 2009. None of these variables have changed since now to become weaker economic performance. Not likely Trump policy so equal to determine international structurally fundamental power relation. Not to value condition in 2009. Expect over long term even in the future economic trial. No chance of war for economic destruction toward the outcomes and effect on the recession conflict. Also, will lead to state using that ratio of great power conflict. Community to all the way people into that's what same as 07 is to take out to consider financial further study for the recession. Natural gain violent conflict not generate protection nationalism. Ethnic exclusion market card. FDI doesn't solve all war for homes and 13 anti-depression can and altogether the human role apart from dollars and harm if you can be part of being foreign policy not strict conventional we will define policy. Venezuela will say no universal 13 measure terminating its conflict Obama will be implemented. Which our policy I question I'm not saying extended verbal question which Venezuela stand up any crime. Now it's Venezuela Maduro the president altered condemnation taken by Venezuela former Mr. One U.S. top level down Venezuela will not send any pressure will go on to warming no impact. This is well as intend the recent climate model fossil add the index CO2 would have exceeded 1,200 ppm. The temperature tend to be south of moderate values to now see largely and 60 phosphorus recovery equal to climate optimism demonstrates the very opposite of rapid vegetation reform. Climate warming is inevitable. Solomon 09 temperature increase are not expected to decrease the emission for the climate will be irreversible to carbon dioxide already. The attitude to global temperature remain constant due to balance between radiant forces and reduced cooling to the loss of heat ocean. Turning increased carbon emissions due to check high altitude water vapor which outweighs Andrews and 10 and in resting instead with climate along with the false by data exaggerate fact and the rest carbon will affect global temperature accelerator level average in the tropics and control the lower temperature has caused global water vapor to drop water vapors the tropics greenhouse gas country is stemming through the greenhouse effect and more than carbon decrease water vapor loads despite tremors and higher carbon loads planets 100 million years ago no global warming model is pretty accurately considered water vapor level. Now CO2 is a key to avert global agricultural crisis and so in 02 in relation to the takes over the lead to protection loss of 2/3 species warming significantly is impacted nowhere near severe loss of ecosystem carbon capture will lead to meaning forest doubling of CO2 concentration productive plants by 80% of the increase of air CO2 content increase agricultural output within the due line for nature extinction 2/3 of the species absolute next century agricultural output not dramatically increase now that outweighs warming it so in until two the agricultural crisis would dwarf the climate crisis agriculture driven crisis almost it's still enough for climate crisis that available technology fully developed cannot prevent many forecasts of bulk consolidation of CO2 emission by invoking precaution principle we have developed agriculture driven environmental crisis now, reducing fossil fuel emission produces SO2 in the atmosphere that turns any sulfur dioxide and coal oil covered in sulfur enhancing reflection solar radiation tends to cool the earth, increasing sulfur dioxide emission less than significant regional warming decrease sulfur dioxide for standard warming of mitigation acid rate problem for future preservation sulfur dioxide emission is capped greenhouse warming probably is atmosphere warming and near regional sulfur emission or no impact of warming mitigation adaptation all metals and immediately rapid low probability capture for quality science economic clear emission that technical model consequence severe impact but part sector no mitigation particularly impact assume that no adaptation many of these will occur before people will die CO2 is to keep warming but shocking a lot of it IPC directly considering the absolute manufacture IPC incorrect IPC overestimate water vapor want to include the college feeding IPC overestimate pulse feedback IPC exaggerate answer for the effect.
Politics. The reason debt ceiling will pass is because Republicans fear another shutdown. Is there another warrant your uniqueness evidence highlights?
For the one in C-none.
No? Okay. Well, I'm confused because why does that mean that political capital matters?
Because our more 9-10 card indicates that Obama's push and Obama's backing of the debt ceiling.
But your uniqueness evidence says the reason Republicans are comfortable.
Yes, that's what they have in the back of their minds. They're going to fight tooth to nail against Obama.
Okay, my second question is the word another is referring to a 90s shutdown. Why did that not cause hegemonic or economic
repeat the question?
collapse? Your card is referring to the 90s when the government shut down. Why did that not cause any fear?
Are you talking about our
Your uniqueness card says they're afraid of another shutdown that occurred in the 90s. Why did that not cause your impacts?
Shutdown of the 90s? That was in the 90s before like our current economic situation. Our Davidson 910 card is more specific on how a collapse right now would destroy.
That argument also applies to all your 1AC impacts about FDI collapse.
Shutdown.
Yes.
No, about FDI.
FDI is investor credibility. If the U.S. declines, investor credibility is gone.
Okay, what's your question?
Did you read an impact to SO2, or did you just say?
Yes. It turns warming.
Okay, totality is the only impact ground.
Yes. And limits.
Okay.
Limits and ground are the same.
Yes. Well, the K is all economic engagement with Latin America rejected.
Yes.
It is?
Yes.
Okay.
Except we don't have an alt. So.
Well, it says reject. Okay. Critique.
Actually,
CJ
counterplan. It's like top calorie.
How does the
that you're
counterplan
racist,
resolve regional coalitions occurring in the Latin American region if it just increases engagement with India?
The regional would say that the regional coalitions won't matter because there's Your
Well, carbon
advantage,
sequestration regional coalitions don't
no,
matter.
your impact card is about global FDI. So if we solve it in India,
so
those
it's just-
solve regional coalitions in the Asian area, which is more important for FDI because Asia is
Okay, what's
right now the rising economic area for the world.
What's the status of the counterplans and the critique?
It's contextually conditional.
What does that mean?
It means that our statement that engaging in this bilateral treatment with Venezuela will always be bad. However, the conditionality of the counterplan and the critique, we can kick that.
Well, critique doesn't have no.
Wait, so, okay.
Therefore, we only have two conditional
And then
answers.
that benefits to both counterplans or politics, the
Yeah, and then the CO2 Ag turns for the second counterplan.
second counterplan reduces CO2 emissions through the oceans.
No, it does not. It increases albedo, which increases sunlight reflected back out into space,
Okay,
reducing
do you take the
temperatures.
blanks or is it all one?
It's all one.
Okay, now, my last question is how does this advantage counterplan solve any other countries? Is it just US action?
Are you talking about?
Is it just domestic action?
Are you talking about the warming plank or the FDI plank?
The one,
The warming plank, we put micro bubbles in the Earth's ocean. That is enough to be reflecting the sunlight back into
like
space.
all the oceans?
No, our planet counterplan takes 4.8% of the surface.
That's all.
The order's gonna be the econ advantage, the warming advantage, topicality, the India conflict, the advantage conflict. Oh, take a step.
Start from?
Yes. Okay, order is still econ warming T. The K in the Counterplan. I mean, also like advanced Counterplan.
Minnesota.
Gave me it.
I am good.
We good?
Everyone's ready? Economic costs more than answer the government. They don't do a total cost the investment regime, which is different than all their answers that just talk about U.S. domestic consumer spending on FDIs, keep the economy, and increases in the technological investment in developing countries causes a exchange of capital, huge for adversatory, and the main 13 regional trade agreements have proven North America, the approach from trade the position by law, the key approach for the trade negotiations here, and there's a strong connection between FDI and economic growth, and we found the strong connection between FDI and economic growth, for the economic growth, the people say the strong support to FDI and growth theories, think of the import of FDI, because we're trying to get any country with large markets that the velocity of the are more FDI support for the economic growth. The returns are all non-unique, because obviously we have FDI now discussion of sustaining them preventing class, and there's also, they also have no evidence that it gives U.S. democracy approach is successful, the status with no countries of committed democracy, because of the U.S. not America, and also democracy doesn't support the U.S. proves that we have been at war for 30 in the last 23 years now. Even on the resilient FDI causes global economic goods, means we no longer have capital flow between different countries to increase the incentive for war, because we're not mutually independent. The economy is key to foreign policy, because it increases the incentive for leaders to lash out other countries in order to protect the populace from internal public life, and plus cause war, because the government protects the dumping out, because the countries are uniquely weak right now, because we had a recession in 2009. The FDI is solve all war, and interdependence means that we have no incentive to attack other countries. I guess Venezuela says to the plan, because he needs FDI to rebalance the Venezuelan economy, the lifeline to save the regional economy. First specific evidence of the plan over generic description of Venezuelan relations. That's key. We have the plan also solves sovereignty, which is key to relations. Maybe the king. And in this condition, respect not only options to go from the U.S. Special Agent Company of Maduro will comment forward, but he sees that as political opposite. Shipper 13, Maduro with response from the government, they reverse facts and have partnership together. After considering the work of Maduro, let them the copy of the private sector forward. That's a Maduro acting of someone from the even looks for political opposite. He has been available to a second relation. We saw even the same relationship with the signal of U.S. willingness to engage with Venezuela. Now, he warming is to short-term and long-term effects, because the sea level rise and changes in climate patterns makes the earth uninhabitable, causes biodiversity loss, and periods are obviously relevant because they don't do anthropogenic CO2 emission. Warming is not inevitable. 20-degree rise of the middle of 11. You just feedback because there's a fossil settles, rapid climate action, positive feedback to me. Really, so the warming, we thought we just have to see the warming, 2 to 3 degrees, 1 degrees over, the most empty for the climate change. Otherwise, you have to mention the oxygen transfer with the rubber, see the temperature higher, much more positive, by 4 degrees Celsius, the condition will be so different, right? Today, now, it's hard to warm stop now. The CO2 doesn't boost yield any of it, just to go to short-term hypothetical project at night. There's a harmful transition mirage, any international solution goes on simply after a few days, we be increase in CO2 increase the national produce at more than 12% now. Also CO2 increases positive feedback to other greenhouse gases flown and make up the level. There are some contribution of other units and methane and nitric oxide. The warming potentials are related to CO2, LVC, CO2, and CO2 emissions, and CO2 for white lines, by elevated CO2 under transpiration, which you can see on the comments, similar to nitrification, also with the energy production. That also answers any reason why CO2 is good for things like water vapor. Now, no limited agricultural productivity. 796 is noticing that future research and the next section is not going to be looking for productivity. Notice the self-session reflected emission after engineering plans. As of after a few decades, the potential for gardens and teachers to limited by focus and population growth and don't count these populations possibilities. Continuous now, but they have another answer to turn CO2 for 4,000 about your answer to unquantifiable flood factor to help U.S. minister the warming by increasing ocean water vapors and climate report of facts and sulfur dioxide emissions to cool. Over the nose of magnitude, schools by solid cool to the flood factor still over the population sulfur dioxide and enhanced warming, which is more access for other actors. These are, of course, in the afternoon, these are water vapor Chinese scrubbers will cut CO2 emissions naturally anyway. Now, their adaptation can help further condense and increase the decrease in CO2 emissions key to avoid certain tipping points. that was about the CO2 is key. That was also about now the topic of the debate. We either access the conditional just using care for that's the environment of counter-temperature engagement can be conditional or unconditional. Concept for the slot to the treatment of engagement and conditional was acquired and proposed that can refer to condition for instance precision defining the term active engagement unconditional also is key to predictability because unconditional engagement is good. Looking the whole bar look at the variety of performance acts better more topic education structural machine to offense and reasonability means that they crowd out topic education forces substance turn and then next liturgy. Their technology is why supremacy isn't among the root cause shelters that it would be impossible for numbers for black community to know with any action whether their power to produce perfect news institutional racism and impact of past racial justice increasing technical waste of economy shaking state budget the business of war trade the conservative ideology pulling from the schools having personal name for the violent doctor the very difficult difficulties to cause vaccinated promotion back to schedule and real social percentage required to reduce the social cultural dynamics one working name is a function on focus on distinction and they're not really alternative that we want neutral for this debate, no neutral to not leadership, neutral for people rather than numbers, which is important. All those are example because the next going on to the numbers to show the wrong to you about the price and they can be to train the analysis and curiosity by Mr. Matthews, because you cost a lot of money to do that to resave the money as again the numbers they can say better. There's no link of emission because we are obviously not talking about every single thing and you want to see also the film to our record because another thing we want to see perpetuates races or imperialism. Their imperialism link is obviously silly. Just talks about every time we engage Latin Americans something bad goes wrong. We prove the affirmative is a good idea because we empower host states and give them an increased property. Now the Indian Counterplan. Conversation to both and Venezuela is key. India is currently against the Western regime. Venezuela is key. They've reacted against Venezuela with the highest intensity. Gomez testing confidential positive breaches and difference between U.S. and Latin regional sovereignty, regional system, established by ICC and determined on judgment about the country Latin America, despite this, and then as it is Latin America, each of the open for social politics, Venezuela have love for Venezuela and developing a series of and they're looking at the form for developing national muslims with Venezuela's reaction and watching also different intensity of the nation's focus. Some president national muslims between the South American countries that share of course the most radical position is thinking about Venezuela, the Chavez for several foreign companies, important key sectors, probably that kind of worries international investment officials have issue because it's used to they have functionally three commercial options for one. They have a multi-play counterplan as well as a state portion of the plan that is uniquely abused and no, they can't solve warming because India is not doing work with access to oil producing countries with Venezuela to get other countries on both South connection on least politics because it would still distract competition because eventually now the managed counterplan can't solve FDI increase influence into the U.S. as relevant and they don't solve overall international regime credibility which is really important about at least the politics because if you have the U.S. with billions of dollars on things like geoengineering that's obviously going to be unpopular. They also can't solve warming because they don't decrease land use emissions and force key contributed emissions. Only control actions also cost from above that CO2 are key because they increase the ocean acidification, which is a separate impact to the environment. Now, geoengineering fails Morty and 110, so local systems average reduced and not possible rate for temperature precision to result as the ocean will be continuing positive distilling oceans and states of elevated over CO2 decades any more station, which either side has discovered rapid levels of important at the time, but only very rapid warming. I'll be positive that won't pass now. I did. It doesn't solve. Positive. Won't pass now. Until 1918 is over. All what is unsafe for the government shutdown won't be responsible against worse and it has public energy involved in the public company with default wrong there won't be use political social media about what center not so long plan with default or not either way the pressure on the police are interested about the house to win the cause of the permission for the right of how to come with moral focus that those be going to counter permission to both of those counter plan is popular the energy march has will find out of the gate of the headache for second information on the strong anti-American normal by Washington that's about a very much faster leader with the protecting and take a long period of training past the process over the debt zone there's no impact to the economy or leadership. Also, U.S. leadership unstable because taking a state constitution means we don't have military power now. Being a serious problem and some nomination for the law doesn't have PC now. PC doesn't influence Congress anyway because it doesn't have political sense. Unless your box for these unless the doctrine less power there other than anything president unless the outcome of the actual evidence of influence marketing influence also winners when Bush proves 4 year 9 after medical man, push back to the Congress game won't have each other spending and keep up the image of a winner. He's the putting on one thing after another.
Can you script? 5 seconds, use.
9:45.
First, let's talk about the counterplan. You say Venezuela is key because they are retaliating against the current FDI system, correct?
Yeah.
If that's true, why would they say yes to the plan?
The plan is different than the current international investment regime, right? All the evidence you read about Venezuela hating the investment system and why they're withdrawing from it now assume a system of arbitration, i.e., where Venezuela has to go to like an international court, and they just like.
So what does the plan
really-
change about that? Do you like want to restructure FDI?
We in the bilateral investment treaty, the plan negotiates. We change the way that those sort of investment disputes are like brought to court. So, for example, in the current system, they have to go to court, and the ICSID tells them like you have to give $1 billion to X company because.
Your card seems to indicate Venezuela wants regional blocks. What about that will change? What about having a court system will change their want for
It's
regional
not a
blocks?
question of having a court system. It's like if we include mediation in the process, then that allows Venezuela to negotiate.
None of your evidence talks about how Venezuela likes this court system. Moving on, what are any other voters other than conditionality?
That's it.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, let's go on to case. You say that agriculture will not fall down. This card is from '96. Does it assume the population growth that has been like
The really
expanded?
nice thing about this card is it's future predictive. It indicates that
From
there's no limit.
'96.
Yeah, it indicates that there's no limit to agricultural productivity because technology will always increase. It's probably better that it was written in 1996 because the past years
17
have
years,
shown that it's
population
been true. We've increased agricultural productivity.
All right. Let's go on to the politics. This said your engagement popular card seems to indicate that Chavez has given a headache. Maduro is following in the steps of Chavez. Why would they perceive Maduro as the same
They
steps?
see it as a change in regime, an opportunity for engagement with
This is
Venezuela.
before they knew what Maduro was going to do. This was right after the death of Chavez.
Like,
Why
sure,
would
whatever.
they
I know
disagree
Maduro
with
has
that?
said things about the U.S., and that's like a nice FYI about how Venezuelan relations are in the status quo. We could argue the plan changes that because it reforms the way.
How does the plan change how congressional people think about
Sure, the
Venezuela?
card indicates that the way congressional people change is up in the air right now. They're not sure what to think because it's only been a few months since Chavez's death. Even if
It's been a few
Maduro has
months
said
since Chavez. It's
something
been
that
almost
hasn't
half a year.
totally
Chavez, Maduro has came out and said that we do not want
Yeah,
to
sure,
do this.
Maduro
They
has
are
said a
dirty
lot of things
imperialists.
about the U.S. Chavez also did, but it didn't prevent them from like buying tons, like selling tons of oil to the U.S. Obviously, there's no link between the rhetoric that Chavez and Maduro use and the economic effects of what they actually do with Venezuelan U.S. ties.
All right, let's go on to the competitive advantage. Economic theory, federal direct investment, other countries such as like India is investing in China, China's investing in Pakistan, Pakistan's investing in other countries. Why would that collapse without the act?
Sure. The point is that the international investment regime, you have to have a way to settle disputes. So
Why are
when-
those disputes happening right now in those countries?
Excuse me?
Why are disputes happening right now in those countries?
In India and China?
Yeah, like in the Asia region, in the European region.
There's obviously always going to be disputes when foreign direct investment occurs.
Then
because
why is your
investors-
F unique?
Huh?
Then why is your F unique?
The Wall Street China card is from 2013. It's fantastic. Actually, it indicates we are literally approaching tipping point. That is a phrase from the card. It indicates that the only way that the investment regime can collapse is through regional ramifications.
Prep. Where's my FDI float? There were no atoms. Was there a terminal impact of Venezuela relations?
That's the advantage.
Venezuela relations?
No, like Latin American relations, of which Venezuela's a subset.
What was the terminal impact of Latin American relations?
The one you
Oh, okay. Top right. 658. Where's my 2 inch? Where's jump track? So while you're getting this, the order will be T. The India FDI Counterplan. And then the 1AC with Econ FDI advantage first, and then the warming advantage. Actually, yeah. Yeah. T, FDI Counterplan, FDI advantage, Econ.
Is the FDI kind of what they can use though, or the FDI advantage?
I said the FDI India stuff. Alright, cool.
Econ.
Alright, everybody ready? Alright. Counterplan interpretation of resolution that questions that one of the plan desired interpretation of resolution that is all actions must be explicitly QPQs. I will limit that topic down to only affirmatives from the northern songs in the context of saying yes, which will limit that clash that way because it's the only portal skill. It's the only way that affirmatives can be tested from both sides and leads to being most commonly average. We do in that return a less amount of affirmatives. The line by basically what they mean because they are the Karen stick. No, it's not. The Karen stick is referring to explicit QPQ, which is something that the affirmative does not do because this way they say no, does not circumvent the entirety of the affirmative. They say counterplan both say this counterplan falls. The shit called from the way is more precise in terms of precision standards because it's written in the context of the way and they intend to define is the only critical mechanism because they are the ones trying to find the topic in the first place. Also, he's from the Gulf for meanwhile they call it just a generic study scholar about the FDI. Now they say that it's just so much they say that they solve limits. No, you don't. The only person with limits is us because I said your firms can be unconditional and conditional. That leads to one restriction of firms that lists any restriction keep anything that without being explicit keeping you. The say yes component limits the topic on sufficiently important to solve. The structural limits argument does not check because limits and neg run outweighs. Critical thinking and street gaps are irrelevant. The neg does not have a comprehensive case neg against them. Debate for the topic of absence, new debates over creative advanced capitalist process capitalist case with this and finally reachability. Standards prove that they're not reachable. Also, too, is that reachability is bad. It makes the topicality meaningless. Individual determinate arbitrarily. Not the case debating out of the hands debater and makes it impossible to establish a consensus of whether that's or not topical and so that the negative no was legitimate going into the round of the counterplan. The counterplan solves the entirety of the case and then the net benefit. We will concede that the counterplan does not solve for women. Thank you for the net benefit. But this counterplan definitely solves for India. On this same no debate, he specifically says that the signal and the perception of U.S. trying to negotiate more BITs should be sufficient to solve. Just because India is not resisting does not mean that the other countries proceed. The U.S. says nothing in BIT. Permutation do both links to the warming that matters because we do not solve Latin American relations. Yes, we will not solve warming in the status quo. He said, now she says that Venezuela is key. This card is great for us because the one card in the one point in the 1AC that I was trying to make was that this Welsh and Schneider card is not in the context of Venezuela. It's just as Venezuela is trying to resist FDI right now. That's the reason that they'll say no to the plan because they do not want the U.S. coming in and screwing up their FDI. They want regional alternatives, which is the reason why they're not going to be cooperating with this global FDI and the reason why Venezuela, even if Venezuela is resisting right now, that's just a state no war, not a reason why the counterplan is solved. Without conditionality, counter interpretation, we get two conditional options and they must be contextually conditional. She did not have a warrant for why conditional is bad in the 2AC. No new 1AR arguments. I see you nodding your head, so I'm going to move on now. Now, go to the FDI Econ Advantage, right? I should probably say some offense. It's key to our information processing, testing after multiple angles for strategic firms like the best arguments. It teaches the net to be strategic, reactive decision with large amounts of information in short time period. That's key to management information. information. That's all I need. Now for the FDI advantage, we will concede the FDI's TD con, but I'm going to win the econ defense regardless. 3 reasons why there's no impact E.5. 1 is structural resiliency. There's a massive governance wars, buffers, the worst effects, national security habits, the empirics frame economic predictions because they filter out the variety of competing predictions. The 2008 recession, the 2000 tech bubble, the Russian default 98, the Asian crisis 97, the recession 92, the stock market crash of 87, all prove our argument. Now some of these related are core drivers for policy considerations are determined by democracy and cultural factors and the natural resources which growth and time advantage. She just asserts that the foreign policy affect economics and affect foreign policy. So we have a card on that which is Blackwell. He cites the most strategic factor and their evidence as in current foreign policy. Also, we see that there's no correlation. All the empirical arguments are false because the average level of peacefulness is the same in 2012 as it was in 2007. The United States economy has declined since the start of the financial crisis, which was the greatest since World War II, which is where they argument. Now also guns are spider proves that there's no war. That's independent north from 2000 military competition. We quite a lot of research, vital leaders, negotiation, settlement, rights of private free of use, and pressures cause military impacts will be great. Now supplement these that deterrence also impact us doing that now. The nuclear revolution made it relatively for leading states to police starting levels of violence. Even as will have to be extreme before the ability to feel the momentum nuclear deterrent will jeopardize. Receiving decline of Russia's economy defense spending has not diminished Russia's ability to attack. Now he said that the organization not only impact country as a royal, except royal votes never. Royal interest and a decrease in coefficient of leadership level, reduce the ability states to coalesce strong political base required to undertake only causes of after measure. Fragmentation, which this is not about getting rights that they will not be able to attack. Even possibly when the nation's survival is at stake. Also, they decide that FDI, they say that FDI impacts the state. It is not the state. FDI is not the state. It's all about independence, which we have to indict with the economy take us to. Also, independence does solve war. That's made in 2009. Economics before World War I. The wars that Europe has become economic independence. That the war where you were. The war was not fighting war. The independence played little role while the country goes to war. Also, we control history. They mistake correlation with causation. That's modern in 2000. The correlation with new trade and commons not completely coupled in the first correlation was appears when trade multiple in Cold War I. There's some clear evidence in 1990s during which trade increased was a period of lower military conflicts. Also, the independence theory as well is because even if countries are rational actors, they're not going to just stop FDI just because we don't do it with Venezuela, which is the reason why FDI is now in the status quo. Now the state knows the way. They're the only state that scores the concept of oil FDI, which the plan does not do, which is the reason why they're going to say, the 180 universal evidence specifically says that Venezuela is currently talking shape is stopping for the efforts to work with relations right now. Now, here's more words. Chavez kicked U.S. oil companies out of Venezuela. That's the reason why they don't want U.S. FDI. That's Chavez and Free State. Chavez for oil companies as the majority control projects, external projects. There's little China war investor approach. Now, supplement 2 is that international FDI fails in Venezuela. The banks are crazy. That's where you get to us saying FDI appears to operate Venezuela bank because of U.S. resolution, European bid, frozen accidents, for Iran's nuclear ballistic missile. The Chavez government can either follow money to Iranian colleagues or force use policymakers to take a shot away from nations that lead to confidation. Now, the reason that they'll say, because the recent Venezuela the statement lost U.S. rejection. That's BBC News in Centennial. Venezuela and its top score restoring the equal times U.S. Probably remarks and response to Congo, Venezuela, and surprising normalization relations between U.S. and Venezuela have been straight. Also, this politically precarious is shifting from something. Future use of Venezuela really is uncertain as Congo, Nicholas, Maduro, registration, processing improved relation U.S. and Venezuela under Maduro, to be a bit not that card made. Also, they don't solve it. They do say no because you need to be because Venezuela rejecting the U.S. bilateral treaty would be worse for backlash than international credibility of Venezuela, which means that the only thing you solve is warming. Now I'm going to go impact turn that. Let's go there now. They have messed up the water turn. The water turn was an internal link to the warming. The only two AC cars are responsible to this argument. The only thing she says is that CO2 raises decreases in other positive effects. That card does not say one warning about water vapor. Also, another tricky thing she tried to do was saying that SO2 decreases water vapor. I'm going to concede the argument saying that Chinese scholars will reduce SO2 emissions inevitably, which is the reason why water vapor will still be high because SO2 is not going to go into atmospheric vapor, which is that we control uniqueness and we're not going to go for the SO2. We're not going to go for the SO2 because that's what defense now. But the water vapor outweighs the Andrews evidence. The one specifically says that water vapor says the rising CO2 emissions decreases water vapor in the upper stratosphere. There's a difference between the upper stratosphere and the lower stratosphere because water vapor will be to decrease because the molecules bonding forward. That's the Andrews evidence. No new warning in our cars because I'm not going to read any cars because they dropped this argument. This also takes out the majority of their office on the CO2 agriculture terms because all the terms are based off of warming killing plants. Except if we internal links to warming cause less warming, that's going to kill the plant. Warming also always economy advantage because you cannot come back for warming. It is the only thing that destroys natural species. The rest of them check any risk of warming except warming is the only thing that reduces warming is by doing the status quo or the counterplan, which doesn't solve warming, which is the reason why we're going to impact on this. Now we're going to CO2 act to collapse of the global power status of the planet. Global agricultural crisis is coming right now, and famines will be inevitable by 2050. Absent CO2 plants will be less efficient, forcing global development and unused farmland collapsing. That outweighs supplementation risk. You're able to see that there's a near-certain risk of the incoming agricultural crisis coming by 2050 that will cause extinction. Now, which is the reason? The line by line, she says that the CO2 agriculture boosts CO2. No, the CO2 does not boost CO2. Yes, it does. CO2 is key to plant growth. That's ESO 2001. from the very what's actually get all the source like doing everything they do better. They typically go bigger and faster, producing more out of large leaves, more larger roots, more larger flowers, more larger seeds, grains, and fruits. They're literally thousands. That is no exaggeration of all the studies that highlight our website that show the very same thing. Now she says that CO2 increases positive feedback, other thing. No, the CO2 is a negative feedback. The Singer 2011, CO2 most plants go lab instead of water, turning counter heating and cooling effects. CO2 is radius. Plants made aerosol the really single liquid radius. Cooling planet drops like create more clouds and cool to go. Also biomass productivity. A consensus of studies will negative. That Singer 2011. Stimulation of biomass accumulation link conducting enhanced carbon circulation of CO2 policy key by less than 127 million cells from the total to warming similarly increased biomass 12.3%. That warming increased biomass reducing carbon uptake. Ongoing rates of air student content. Well, some of the tendency increased temperature. Now she said that text off no doesn't. ESO 2011 improving focus and converts inefficient local still accepted. The number of midterm goals will take over 20 years to achieve the additional 10 to 20 years to bring such innovation farm. Two level of science has undertaken identify what needs to be altered effectively. We do not have time to almost blindly gamble on our ability to accomplish what needs to be done in order to further solve massive huge starvation of global dimensions. Mark the color dimensions. Yeah, I want to read. Go over the two and see. I just need one. Maybe just one color. Yeah, don't make that limit. Alright. Oh, this card's good too. I want you to read it. I'll highlight it down a little bit for you. Yeah, no. Now I just give more time to prep. I have the two cards I want you to read it. Since we have time, I'll get them in the Dropbox. One's a card that says CO2 soft plants, the other's a negative feedback card. I think you should just read more cards on what you're taking. Oh, also, actually didn't make any notes for conditionality. Alright, just say contextual conditional means no twisty strategy because we will always have the plan to the offense. Which one? This is it. This is it. Actually, I'll just type it up in the speech I'm going to give you. So, the warming advantage? The FDI, I can't find any. Oh, okay.
422.
Yeah. Classics?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about topicality violations really quickly. Lifting the entire Cuban embargo, is that an example of a topical president?
In lifting the entire Cuban embargo?
Yeah.
If you do it through QPQ.
So by itself, the embargo is not topical.
No.
Let's talk about the warming flow. You read a couple pieces of evidence about why technology can't increase agricultural production.
Yep.
These cards are all from INSO, they're from his website. What scientific basis does INSO cite for his claim?
Two arguments. One, Darwin agreed to is the argument. Second is that ESO. No. The second argument is that ESO has a PhD upon plant studies and biomass studies.
It's also funded by the oil industry.
That is irrelevant. We can read a card for it. And the second argument is that he was also invited to the ICCP, which is what most of your authors were, but he rejected it because the ICCP was messed up.
So he got invited to something that makes him qualified despite the fact that all his studies are funded by the oil industry?
Except the same thing he got invited to is what all your
He
authors
got
were
invited to something,
invited
which
to.
he then later on rejected. That doesn't make his scientific
Because the
studies qualified.
ICCP was flawed.
Okay,
Our
so
water
what-
vapor returns also say that the CO2
Okay,
laws
cool.
are
So
flawed.
all of the CO2 ag stuff is like when we increase CO2 in a greenhouse, plants grow faster. Where does this assume other conditions that change when warming increase, i.e. things like drought or like changing
You mean
weather
the things that
patterns?
are water vapor return, internal wing terms?
So you have to win the water vapor turn to win the CO2
I
ag.
think that's-
Is that correct?
Yes. I
Okay,
think that's already
so let's
done.
talk about the water vapor turn. You read one piece of evidence about why CO2 increases water vapor. How is this necessarily true? I guess, like, what is the scientific
Okay,
basis?
things. The Andrews evidence from the 1HC
Yeah.
cites a number of studies that show correlations between the amount of CO2 rising and the amount of stratospheric water vapor decreasing.
Yes, because things like evaporation occur when like temperature increases. I'm asking why CO2 increases warming caused by water, or why CO2
Because
decreases.
CO2, we have also proved that CO2 is a negative feedback. So if the
Okay,
Earth
so-
is cooling, less water goes to the stratosphere.
So
and it's
you
less
have to win
vapor.
that CO2 does not cause warming in order for you to win that
Not
water.
exactly. That's another warrant. The Andrew card cites independent studies that make this
Okay.
claim.
Independent
We
studies.
don't have any
Where
cards
did
on
we
this.
just the Anderson card just indicates that like CO2 decreases water vapor. What does that indicate that that decrease in water vapor is sufficient to outweigh all the other things that CO2 does to cause warming?
Let's
Where's
see.
that comparative claim in any of
As
your-
carbon levels have risen, the tropics have grown colder. The lower temperature causes global water vapor to drop. Actually, no, that's not
Yeah,
really.
it decreases
Water vapor
water.
is the strongest greenhouse
Yes,
gas,
we agree that water
contributing
vapor is
70%.
strongest, but CO that's increasing.
Let me put it this way. If you want to read impacts of CO2, it's too late because the 2EC didn't make that argument. The
Really?
1EC impacts don't say that. It's all about warming temperatures. You did not have an impact like ocean acidification, no cars in that, no reason why CO2 are bad.
Okay,
You
we
did
can
not read a
just
single
take
car
that
in
until
that.
the 1AR, but anyways, let's keep
Make
talking
an argument
about
that
the
no
Anderson
new 1AR
card.
arguments.
Let's talk about the Anderson card. This card indicates that water vapor is good, or like water vapor is important. What does it indicate that CO2 gets rid of all water vapor? It just
The rising carbon levels is having little effect on global temperatures. As carbon levels have risen, the tropics have grown colder and caused global water vapor levels to drop.
I agree that it drops water vapors. What does that indicate the comparative claim?
That is the comparative point.
Let me save this first. Good. So let it out. And this is a long order. It's going to be warming. This could be the India Counterplan, the FDI Counterplan. The critique, the Counterplan,
The advantage, right?
yeah, the Advantage Counterplan, or the only one remaining, and then the politics system.
The economic politics go back.
Yeah, sure.
Take a second to prep. Conditionalities on the counterpart. And also, like, arguments, interpretation, they need to have a 2EC card or 1EC card. And the impact is sent back in the study for class.
10 seconds. 6:42. Is everyone ready?
He's reading cards on warming from the 2NC doc, just to clarify.
Okay, so just the bottom of the 2NC warming dock, or where?
There's two cards. The Singer 11 card and the EATSO 2002 card.
Ready? Okay. Actors, economy, independent countries will fight to go to war if they don't have the resources only. CO2 sulfur internal link. The efficiency is key. It's 0.02. The voting normal delay CO2 protected or the plant right by 50% projected. We plant right by 80% as CO2 content. So the land use efficiency CO2 over 3 increases CO2 play a huge evident. Increasing agriculture export without taking new land from nature. Now biomass productivity. Consensus studies vote negative. And this is here. A lot of stimulation biomass accumulation enhances carbon sequestration and positive feedback leaving content demand and announced and permitted in 127 individual study for a total terrestrial plant warming significantly included due to biomass 43% warming increase in biomass indicators saying ongoing students consequence often tendency increase global temperatures go on. Now no new 1AR interpretation. You must have a 2EC or 1EC card that makes it impact as 2EC standback where we cannot generate any clash and affirming will always go on. India cap like conditionality is still a voting issue. We did not sue their 2EC. There's no impact to 2EC spread, especially when they drop their interpretation contextually conditional. This gives them specific offense to make Venezuela key argument to attack all of our off-case positions. Our advocacy is still going to be constant. Now, don't to critique and see that they're not the only commission and that their engagement is not bad. There's no link. This was a procedural argument. No alternative goes to Counterplan. Critique, permutation, do both. Justice has the competition. Goes to politics. It's a disalloys in terms of time frame. Wait, warming is a century away while the financial crisis immediate investor pull immediately, which turns FDI. We must be able to see impacts coming first of all. That creates a logical decision making. However, agricultural crises are coming right now, which also turns case that default means the plan would be delayed or unfunded. Fiat means plan repression. Now causes credit downgrade, which broils the markets API 9-10 failed to develop the time to roll. Financial markets will lead to downgrade on the government credit rating. Now the first argument will pass Republicans are conceding now Expo 918 prosper for passage are high. Republicans appear to concede the legislation that reaches the White House will have a healthcare of law effect. I don't think the original person thinks they're at his game. The government shows out the mainstream Republicans will back off this Rochester Bureau in 918. I'm prepared to work with Democrat Republican mainstream reasonable Republican will choose to say if they're saying we're going to back off they're wrong. Also their evidence from the 2AC indicates that only the middle Republicans who are more considerate and have a rational sense are key to getting deficit impact. So Obama's political capital is key to getting that push. Now midterms got put pressure on the GOP Bloomberg 827. The one congressional succession is unlikely they will refuse to compromise and real voters get angry with Republicans don't see we want to attack Medicare, Social Care. Now the GOP is serious about the Obamacare. This is Tom Mansky, 23 are the Republican revolution about the funding of Obamacare, funding House Sample petition, possibly well the congressional office fails to ever will direct the next president. It has 86. There's a big drop from 121 mark. The caller there now the engagement popular term. This is Trojan. We're going to have to the car said we're going to have to see how things evolve. It's a dynamic period for Washington. A measure test will be whether Venezuela follows its own constitution. Guess what? They are not majority have been following in Venezuela past. This has been written one day after Chavez's death, so they cannot. This is not conclusive all about whether they like Maduro or not. Israel lobbies will it's against it. Fox will attend the island of they feel sharper tunnel across the border. Conventional oversight in addition to no mystery. Their right to impact culture also Magna Rubio hardly in the Congress. Venezuela well they have a strong pro-Israel protection Venezuela for a point of friction mystery and Congress now they hate narco terrorists in Venezuela. All 112 the Republican platform approves the party convention made on the hardline Palestinian Latin America. Israel representing Christian expression U.S. security Venezuela having narco terrorists turning into Arabia Western Hemisphere. Now this does not link to the Counterplan because the engagement with India Venezuela is unpopular. I want to see link argument is fantastic that even economic engagement with Venezuela is unpopular. Now they say no impact to economic failure to smoothly raise the deficit and cost of financial crunch. P9 and 910 treasury officials say truth between two alternative routes of both toxic financial the government federal routes to global economy. Obama has warned the economic crunch. Government shut on the lawmaker agrees to raise the deficit. Also they did not read any cards on this. That's the standard for the 2C. You are going to have to defer the announcements and one cards for the 1 in R. They say empirics demand no it doesn't. It's not going to be like 2011 or the past shutdown because of the financial situation. Also the Republicans are this is Cornerstone of Marco et al. 515. The investor confidence is probably driven in past periods. The episode is fresh. It's the downgraded S&P in 2011. Treasury yields and finance fully Richard Slide. Their